Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds, a Thursday night live edition. I'm here in the studio without Melanie tonight. She and Morgan are back in South Carolina for about 10 days. So I'll be the next two Thursdays. I'm solo here, but I'm not completely solo. I would like to show you my predicament. Let's see what I can get this down here. Producer dog Lily Potter is with me tonight. And the thing about Lily, difference between Lily and Sophie, is that Lily would rather be nowhere on planet Earth rather than your lap. And so she's tried and gotten into my lap twice since I've been down here, and I've convinced her to try to sit in the chair, not in my lap, because it makes it awful hard to reach the keyboard whenever I'm that far away. So hopefully she'll do her job, and she's well equipped. And night edition, a live edition, that tonight the plan is to talk about the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is coming up here in about 3 weeks in February. And a lot of people have questions about that, how to count birds, what birds they count, what birds they don't count, things like that, and how they submit their data, et cetera. So we're going to cover all that. And usually with that, there are some confusing conundrums in the bird world, especially if you're really new to it. We're going to cover some of those classic ones. And boy, something happened. There must be some kind of delay, because all of a sudden there were no comments except Sandy checked in before I got on, and now boom, everybody else. So there must have been some kind of thing going on there that people weren't getting in. So, oh, good. Yeah, it's kind of getting paranoid there. I felt like nobody was watching. So, all right. So that's the idea for tonight. And I'm going to have a special guest join in with me here in a little while, not at the first, but she's no stranger to you guys if you're regular followers. And the reason I'm having her on, especially for this program, is she is the eBird reviewer for my area, the Kansas City area here. And she knows a lot more about eBird than I do. And one of the ways they recommend submitting data for the Great Backyard Bird Count is there's three ways basically to do it, but using eBird is certainly one of them. And we're going to go over those methods and the way how you can participate in all that. So first off, though, I feel like we've got to welcome people in. It's what we always do. Introductions. Remember, my name is Mark McKellar. I am and my wife own the Backyard Bird Center, a retail store here in Kansas City. The YouTube channel's been up and going for kind of consistently for about 3.5 years now. And it's really, really grown. We really appreciate our supporters. I mean, you guys are great. And we're on twice a week. We're on every Monday night and every Thursday night. The Monday night is a program. Now Thursdays are lives on Thursday night, so you can ask questions and interact. And we always enjoy it. I mean, you guys ask some of the great questions and your participation, and hopefully you're learning, because that's my goal in life, is to teach people, especially about birds in the natural world. So one of the things we ask is, when you join on, if you would check in with us, and a couple things with that is your usernames, can be confusing sometimes, and that's what I'll call you if you don't. If you join in, tell us your name, maybe your first name you want me to call you by, but also where you are in the country, because people join in from all points of the compass here, and basically the city and state would be helpful, or just the state if you want to, anything like that. That, a lot of information helps us when I'm answering questions. So let's get started. And like I said, Sandy was the first one in, and I think that meant hi. Sandy. All right. Tweet from Kankakee, Illinois, saying he's a very, very regular visitor on these programs. Oh, hello, Brian from Leavenworth, Kansas. I hit Brian up for some pictures today for some upcoming programs that we're going to talk a little bit here toward later on. And hello, Lauren and Tyler from St. Charles, Missouri, just on the other side of the state, great state of Missouri. Everyone. Hello, Taylor. Again, someone who you see his pictures regularly, another great photographer, along with Brian and Mary, several of my friends, and you guys keep sending those pictures. Oh my goodness. Sandy, it sends pictures all the time, and Lisa from up in Canada sends pictures. And I use them, and believe me, there's a lot more than that. And if you ever want to know who takes the pictures, or the pictures I'm showing, because people assume I do, but I am not a real photographer. Believe me, as I always say, I'm the trip leader. I always am the one looking and listening for the next bird and trying to find the next bird for people. And I'm lucky to have a lot of good photographers that come on my bird hikes. And these are the pictures you see. But those photo credits are in the description below the program at the end of the night. Usually I don't get them up until the next day, because the reason I don't do that beforehand, because I don't know which order I'm going to do them in. And so it takes me, probably till next day, tomorrow, to have the picture credits up there. But believe me, I fully appreciate it. And anybody wants to send pictures that I can use in these programs, that they all help. And, one of the things I realized is, like, people don't send very many pictures of birds at their bird feeders, like a bird feeder set, several birds on your bird feeders, things like that. Some of you are really good about it, but I don't have a lot of those pictures, and that can be tough. And I've got some examples I'll show you here in a little bit of what, and I've used them before. Jay and Carol, welcome in. They're from just one of our bird watchers, two of our bird watchers right up north of the city here. Hello, Carrie Beth. You had the day off. Thank you. Woody, yes. Yeah, the online store has really been doing well lately. And Carrie makes sure those packages get boxed up and sent out quickly. No doubt about it. Hello, Justin. You're wonderful. Justin gifts these memberships to the channel, and I really appreciate that. This is just an extra way to support the channel and help keep us going. And you've been very, very dedicated to that. Hello, Frontier from SoCal. Welcome in. Another regular visit, one of my West Coast people. Absolutely. Sandy Peak Woodcraft. Yes. Yes, you can hear me. Okay. See, there was such a delay. Then it just, I didn't know if he might. I'm so glad you guys chimed in. Thank you for that. Good. Yes. Oh, now everybody's catching up with me. Good. Oh, hello, Derek from Illinois, another regular participant. Loud and clear. I can be loud. Yes, all right. Hello, Rick from North Carolina. The North Shore of Massachusetts, Cape Ann. Welcome in. Good. Right. Like I said, dude, from the time I asked it to the time you guys answered, there was a minute or so delay that no comments were showing up, and then I was getting really worried. That's the reason I asked it more than once. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Ann. Hello, Mark from Winthrop, Massachusetts. They got a good one, Massachusetts crowd tonight. Hi, James. You made it in on time tonight from New Jersey. Real dedicated supporter of the store and the YouTube channel. Hello from Jim in Northwest Louisiana. Welcome in. All right. Good evening from the Red Hills of South Georgia. Washington State. Hello, Denise. Welcome in. Another of our regular Western U.S. people. Thank you for joining in. Wow. That's good. Now up to 69 people watching you. This is a good crowd tonight. I appreciate you guys joining in. And man, like I said, the support is humbling that people are enjoying the channel the way they are. It's cold and snowy Pennsylvania. Well, I'm glad you got snow, because we sure don't. It finally turned off cold. We've had 60s and right at 70 degrees here in the last month, and it's crazy. Our birdseed sales are down because of that. And you guys are getting cold. They said the Northeast area, that the part of the country was going to have the snowier winter this year. Excellent. You'd like another good, and that's a good reminder to us that. If you like the programs, give us a like, share them if you will, spread the word, because we want more people to join in. All right, everybody, stay. This is what happens, folks. If you're new, all these people that know each other from every week or every month, they get to know each other. Welcome, Jordan. I hope your feeders have picked up. It sounds like you're getting snow out that way. Hello from Central Illinois. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to catch us live. Yeah, a lot of people have to watch the replays. I know. And Denise and SoCal, especially the Western people. I know it's early for you. I mean, a lot of people aren't even off work out there, so they have to watch the replays and big busy schedules and all kind of conflicts. Cold as Green Bay there. Yeah, Melanie and Morgan are down in Myrtle Beach. It is cold there. It's supposed to get down to like 20. I think in the 20, the wind chills in the 20s down there tonight, I think they said. So, from southern Utah, welcome in. From upstate South Carolina. The girls are down on the coast. Hello from Allison from Kansas City, Missouri. Well, welcome in. Toby's like that. Yeah, that's what we get known at later in life, isn't it? Kim from Noblesville, Indiana. Kim Barrett, welcome in. Good crowd. Have you been following? About 2 years, and then finally, that is welcome in. That is great to know. I know. Like I said, I know we have viewers from all levels of bird watching, and from all parts of the country. It's great to get that diversity. Well, I hope you enjoy the live. We're getting on with us. Oh, good gracious. Number 2. Yeah, James, if they can get to it, and how I feel about baffles, but yeah, if it's got a plexi tube or whatever, and it's got anything to do, sunflower chip, the only way really that they won't chew through is for Niger, and they'll occasionally even do that, I think, just to be mean. Yeah. Sedalia. All right. Just out to our west. Oh, no, to our east. Sorry. Sedalia, Missouri. All right. Well, Mary's just jumping in. I see Mary's going to join us here. So we'll get through this real quick and we'll get her on here. From Long Island. Hello, Terry. Steve from Crete, Illinois. Welcome in. Oh, Stephen R. Birds. You've been on before. I recognize that username. I gotcha. I knew it. As my wife always tells me, you know what I meant to say. Forgot to include my name. Bill. Welcome, Bill. Yeah, again, there's that Bell Isle market. I don't know what to call it. Yeah. Thank you for getting that in there for me. All right. Chat from Bradenburg, Kentucky. Welcome in, Cheryl. Terry from Arkansas. Outdoors time. Good evening. Welcome in. Oh, absolutely, James. James, when I said people don't submit bird feeder pictures, James is definitely one that does, and he's got some fantastic ones. I know you've seen them, and I've used them, and they're fantastic, and they help me and make my point and stuff. Cold, another cold and snowy Pennsylvania. There's Ruth joining in from Lee Summit. We're going to talk about her a little later on in the program, and of course she'll join in and talk. But Cardinals have been loving our feeder lately. And I think that's so funny. I just had someone who emailed me today or commented that it would be great if I could just get some Cardinals. And it's just, so boom or bust, people love it. All right. Last one, and then we're going to get to some questions. Well, thank you, Sandy. Welcoming the newcomers. All right. Oh, the family in Crete there. Yes, absolutely. Tax day for the hummingbirds and the orioles. Everybody's already starting to. It's funny, once you get past January 1st, people start looking for the spring. That's for sure. All right, let me see if I can get Mary in here. Hold on. All right. Where are you? Try it again, Mary. I'm sorry. I should have clicked on you whenever you did last time. But okay, tonight's program, and Mary will join us here in a little bit, is about the Great Backyard Bird Count. And if you want your regular follower of the channel, I talk, and I have guests. We talk about citizen science all the time. And that is for ways that people who love birds can get involved to help scientists make important decisions about birds and bird management and wildlife ecosystems, everything. And one of the great ways that, we have Project Feeder Watch, we have Christmas bird counts we've talked about. Well, the Great Backyard Bird Count coming up here in a couple of weeks. The website is birdcount.org with all the information on how to participate and everything on there. We're going to talk about that. But what we're doing, and what I love about that program is you get a snapshot of where birds are in the country. There she is. Sorry. There you go. I missed you. I guess it times out. You should be joining in here. Add to stage, coming in. All right. It's taking time to connect, I guess. All right. Well, the Great Backyard Bird Count is absolutely a wonderful way that you give back to the birds. So that 4 days in February, and it's all around. They gather information from all around the world, and especially in our hemisphere, from Canada to United States down to Mexico and Central America. Those areas, they get a snapshot of where birds are that one weekend, and that is so important. And a lot of times people's bird feeders look like this, in the winter month, because of course we don't have snow cover right now, but this is a great example of what your feeders look like, and you being able to count those birds and submit that data. We learned so much about bird movements, and I've talked about this before about, I don't have any, pick a bird this year. American tree sparrows, white-throated sparrows, white crown sparrows, things that you're used to seeing at your feeders in winter. And, your instincts are to push the panic button. Oh my God, where are all my cardinals? Where are all my, and by doing this, by everybody submitting this data, we get an idea of where bird movement, and maybe those birds just aren't as far south yet this winter because of the winds didn't put them in it. Maybe you're not in your area because your area was too dry, and so they moved past you this year. But the Great Backyard Bird Count really helps us with that. Helps us you heard me talk about counting birds and how to how we use that data. And I always talk about, you just can't say I have 472 cardinals in my county because I've counted them all. Now, that's impossible. But what we do with these counts is we have to study the trends, the up and down. So when we look at last year's data, 2 years ago's data, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, and we have this data being submitted, we can get a snapshot. We know where they are, and that helps us. And then we can factor in winter patterns, how severe the weather was in this part of the country that year versus the drier this year. Believe me, scientists use all this data to really jump in and help them understand where the birds are. And you guys, I've always said it, there are a lot more of us, there are a lot more of the bird watching people, the bird feeding people. Here we go again. I'm gonna try again. There she is. Third time's the charm. Sorry, Mary.
I could not get it to work on my computer, so I'm on my cell phone. So if you get the Blair Witch Project movement, sorry.
Yeah, it's like I kept waiting for you to pop up on there.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, hey, that's going to get Lily going here probably. So, okay, everybody, this is Mary Nemecek, one of my very, very good friends, and one of the most dedicated people I know to the natural world and birds and monarchs and fossils and native plants and all those things. We've had her on. I've had her on several occasions, and when we're going to talk about how to do this count, and I was talking to her this afternoon about it, and about if people had questions. She says, "Why don't I join in tonight? You got to get out of hauling your son around past tonight, I guess."
A little bit. So when I get off the phone, I got to go pick him up at the gym. But yeah, I've gotten out of it up to that point. So
yeah, up to that point. All right, we won't keep you on too long because it's okay. How the Great Backyard Bird Count works, and is you go on and you count the bird. They ask you, okay, here are the parameters. And during that 4-day stretch, they want you to count birds a minimum of 15 minutes during that period. Now you can count birds for 8 hours on one day, or 2 hours, 15 minutes on the three, as much as you want in there. But for data submission, they want you to watch birds and counted birds for a minimum of about 15 minutes. So yeah, and then you can submit your data. And this is where Mary and I got to talking about was this data submission today, because what has changed over the years for us that have done this for a while is the way you submit data. It used to be you just had, on your computer, you had to go to the Cornell website, the birdcount.org website, and click on the submit data, and you had to go and enter your data on the computer and hit send. Well, before that, it was filling out papers and then mailing them in, back in the old days. But now we have apps. And a lot of people are using Merlin app, and they're using eBird app, and those are perfectly fine. If you're a regular to use an eBird, if you create a list on any one of these days, the list you create, that's going to get submitted, and that's all going to count on the Great Backyard Bird Count. All that data gets submitted. I don't even, if you go outside with Merlin, you turn it, there you go. Now I got what you're doing there. You're getting, but if on the Merlin app, if you go out and do a recording of the bird sounds that you're hearing, that gets loaded up to the Great Backyard Bird Count as well. So, one of the things that Mary and I got to discussing, like I said, her being an eBird reviewer, which is someone who looks over sightings, and if there's something questionable, whatever, she has to ask for more information and things like that. So I've had voice concerns that people have said, well, I don't like doing it because I don't want to give out my address. I don't want people to know. Well, so I'm going to let Mary explain kind of how that works whenever you're using your backyard as the count point. Do people see that? And if you don't want that to show up, how you can go about that?
Okay. So Mark and I talked about this. I have a lot I can say about this, so it can go on for a while. But the bottom line is, eBird does not give out your address. It will drop a pin at what the location is. We don't want you to enter birds that you find in your yard at the park a mile down the road. It just doesn't work well for the data set. So I told Mark, I said, there's a couple things. I said, one is, if you don't want to enter birds that are in your yard because you're afraid that someone is going to find your house, just don't do it. But no one is going to show up at your house unless you've got a puffin or,
or a dog in your lap.
Yeah, or a dog in my lap, or a penguin or something like that shows up. This is Stanley, by the way. So I have a yard list. My yard is just called Mary's Yard or Yard, and I enter my list. And if there was something rare that came up, you could click on it and see where I was at. But if that was something I didn't want to make public, I just wouldn't enter it. There are ways, if you have a rare bird that shows up, we do want to capture that in data, either with your state records committee, or you can talk to your local eBird reviewer to see the best way to do it or how to put it in there so it doesn't show up for public dissemination. But I just want people to be comfortable with it. I mean, it's not really ever been a problem unless, like I said, you've had a rarity and people come by and say, can I see your bird? You get a painted bunting in the backyard or something like that. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, it's just not been an issue. So if you have questions, I would just suggest reach out to someone else that that uses that application and how they handle it, or if they can connect you to the local eBird reviewer, or to, if it's a real rarity, to someone on your records committee and kind of talk through it. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm glad to answer them, but I've just never had it be a problem. So,
yeah. And another safe way around that is just to go to the website and enter the data there. At the birdcount.org, it doesn't go on to eBird because you enter the data on the website, does it? And that way I understand it.
If it doesn't go through eBird, it doesn't go through eBird.
Okay. Yeah. So that's probably the safest if you have that concern. And folks, like Mary and I were talking about, there are just some stories in the past, and it's not like we're talking about stalkers or anything like that. There was an incident several years ago where a rare bird showed up here north of Missouri. It was actually an Ani in a garage, and they called the Audubon Society, and they told the person that they did not want visitors. It actually, like, the mother had died. Her mother, and they were having funerals, they were having people get, well, this one bird watcher showed up at their front door, and because he had found out about it, and it was quite rude, and he said that, well, I'm with Audubon and I have to document this bird. I have to be here, and that kind of stuff. And there's always people, that kind of people are the ones that really give bird watchers a bad name, and that I just can't imagine that happening in today's day and age. But that's just a circumstance in the past that I was really, really familiar with when that happened. So.
Yeah, so just a couple things. One is, like I said, your address isn't on there. There is a pin that is dropped in the general vicinity of where the observation occurred. I have never heard of an issue outside of something like a big rarity showing up. And if you think you have an awning in your garage on the Great Backyard Bird Count, I would just suggest like sending Mark a picture or someone else that and just having it confirmed before you post it.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mark, and during backyard bird counts, we have a lot of business that comes through the queue. And it's things just like black-capped chickadees and Carolina chickadees. I mean, they're virtually identical, but there is a clear line that runs through Missouri. If it's north of that line, it's a black-capped chickadee. If it's south of that line, it's a Carolina chickadee. They just don't migrate. They don't move from that. But a lot of times people will see it and think, oh, this looks like a Carolina chickadee, or this. I heard that Mark can do that little whistle.
Yeah. I had a black cap doing that in my backyard when I lived at Martha Lafitte. He did it like twice.
Yep. So, anyways, long story short, it just isn't something I would worry about. But if you are worried about it, I would just say don't do it. So.
Yeah.
And you can do great backyard bird count in other locations. I mean, you can go to a park and enter that. So, if you don't want to do it from your home, you can do it somewhere else. So.
All right, let's see if anybody's got any questions for you before we can get out of here and go pick up your son. All right, let me go back up here. I don't know how far back. Hello, Mary. Hello, Mary. Hello, Mary. A lot of people saying hello, Mary.
Hello.
All right. Let's see. Sorry if I missed you, but tons of robins in Utah, so it's a good trade-off. Yeah, they had the milder winters. So robins definitely do well. Do we count them on?
Had them all over my water. I mean, they've been here every day this winter.
What can you explain about eBird? Whether you can try to submit every single bird, but you don't have to. Can you just do one? Just the different species.
Yeah, at the bottom of your list when you go to submit it, it'll ask you if it, what your count was. Is it stationary? Were you moving? How long? And then there's also things like incidental. So, for instance, if I was doing dishes and I look out my kitchen window and I see a towhee out there, and I'm like, well, that's not a bird that shows up in my yard very often, and so I just want to put that down. But I'm not really watching birds. I'm not counting everything that's in the yard. You would just hit incidental versus sitting there and counting everything that shows up.
Yeah, and I know the question about Merlin. We were playing with Merlin today, both of us at the same time talking about it. And I think in Merlin, there are ways to do lists, but I think mainly what they're doing are, when you do a recording, they get that, right? I mean, that data gets sent to them, and that's why they can count. Which again,
yeah, Merlin or audio ID, you can add or delete birds. So, Merlin, Merlin's great, but it's not 100%. So
I think,
yeah, if it decides, if you've got a starling and it thinks it's a, whatever, chickadee or something, you can change your list before you submit it. But yeah, it makes the list off of what it identifies vocally.
James is asking one of the dates. It's February 13th through the 16th, or the date count dates this year. James, that good question. Yeah, I like I said, the Merlin part of it, I'm just not familiar with how they do it. I'd be able to tell you a place very close to your home and picking a park I have my way. Not a good idea. Absolutely. Hello, Lily. Yes, I hear you. Does it have private mode? Does eBird have private mode?
You can hide. No, it does for your profile, not for lists that you enter. You can
Okay.
hide your lists when you enter them. Um, and I was talking to Mark about this earlier, and I'm like, this is really getting kind of in the weeds. But when you enter it, if it's something that's rare, it will automatically hit the alerts for 2 weeks after it's entered. So, for instance, a lot of people are sensitive about snowy owls in the winter, and so they'll wait those 2 weeks, and then they'll enter their sighting and hide their checklist, and then it never hits any public forum. Once the winter's over, the bird's gone, then people will go ahead and make it public. So that data is there, that bird is there. And one of the things I want to stress is how important citizen science is. There's a lot of data that is coming out that's being published that comes from eBird. Marky and I did a paper that was published in Wilson's Journal of Ornithology. Without eBird, we would have never been able to do that paper. It was based on sightings in multiple states. That the data, there would have been no way to do it. There would have been no way to collect that data. So citizen science is incredibly important, and that's also why eBird has these checks. Like if it's a rarity, then it gets submitted to a reviewer to,
Sorry, I had to
discern
turn
the
off
level
the
of
space heater I was
confidence.
cooking.
So, anyways, yeah.
The data, like I said, man, it's the part of the social media, the part of the modern that is so beneficial to scientists. I mean, that remember, and not too long ago, it was just biologists doing surveys and stuff. And boy, believe me, they talk about spotty. Now this data just comes from everywhere. It's great. All right, funny people trying to keep secrets. Yeah, that you got to respect people's wishes, though. I tell you. Yeah, like I said, if you have any concerns about it at all, I would just go to the birdcount.org and enter your data directly into the system that way. All you have to do is go to the website, and it tells you how to participate, the boundaries, and then it'll how to submit your data. It talks about Merlin eBird, and then direct entry. You just click on that, it'll take you to the form, and you fill out, and you just enter your data that way. And it won't show up on your backyard, won't show up as a dot, or in your area generally, if that concerns you. Yeah, believe me, the sound is the best, but the chickadees, it can be confusing as it is.
Oh, sorry.
Does Feeder Watch info, Project Feeder Watch data, I do believe that does it is counted. I mean, I don't know if the weekends coincide. I don't know if that's a count time for Feeder Watch. My guess is they probably avoid that so that they don't overlap.
No, I think Feeder Watch is. It goes on for like several weeks. So
it does, but there's count weeks. Yeah, right.
Yeah, one of the things I know that like Burroughs Audubon does, sorry, my arm's getting tired holding my phone. Burroughs Audubon does counts there at the library. So you can go and watch and do counts, both for Feeder Watch and for Great Backyard Bird Count. And so if you're not local and you want to do it and you're new to it or whatever, I'd suggest like checking with your local Audubon or your local nature center and just see if they're doing something. And then join in on that. That's a great way to get started and, be able to ask questions and see what it's all about with people that have done it. Yep.
Yeah. Telling you, when I played tennis and, when I was growing up, and the rule was you want to get any better, you have to play people better than you. That's how you learn. And the same thing with bird watching. I mean, if you want to learn bird with people who know more than you do, believe me, you'll absorb it. You'll pick it up. Absolutely. All right, here's an interesting question. If I have a frequent visitor, but he doesn't show up during the weekend to count, can I still count that bird? For example, a Cooper's hawk. Exactly right. Yeah. It has to be there because, and part of that too is to protect, you may have a neighbor, 4 blocks away that Cooper hawk's in their yard and they're counting him. And then, there's ways to do that. But the rule is you have to see it or hear it to count it on your data sheet.
And nothing's more frustrating than like the breeding bird survey because you count every half mile.
Yeah.
and you're driving by and there's a really good bird in between the stops, you don't get to put it on the next stop. It wasn't there.
That's right.
So
we write it in the margin, but Ruth and I did that years ago on one of our routes. We had a male painted bunting land in the road in front of us between stops. We didn't hear it. We couldn't hear it. So we wrote it in the margin.
yeah.
Yeah. You're like, it happens. It can be very frustrating. Just found this info. And your address are hidden only. The count or something. Okay. Monmouth County, New Jersey. Exact address. Interesting. Well, hi, Lisa. Welcome in. Signed up for Project Feeder Watch and did my 2-day count yesterday and today. It goes from November to the end of it. Excellent. Yeah, I knew that. I knew it was a broad period that they do the Project Feeder Watch. It has its own app. Okay. Yeah, I've never downloaded that. I think Mary got kicked off there.
I did. Must be a Wi-Fi problem or something.
Yeah.
Was there a question? Did I miss something?
They were talking about their own app. Feeder Watch should be in its own app. Yeah. And then ways of and James was talking about he found a Monmouth County, New Jersey, exact coordinates are hidden only. So I guess it can be hidden only. All right, Brian. Yep, I do. I see there's someone getting Juncos numbers 20 plus or about 1.5 miles away. I don't have any since early December. Do I have any shot of attracting these guys? If you got snow right now, I can't imagine you not having Juncos nearby, Jordan. That's crazy. I mean, they're talking about how snowy it is in Pennsylvania, New York. Man, that just brings the Juncos out of the woods whenever we get those conditions like that. So I'm not sure why you're not getting Juncos, especially if you're feeding, giving them millet sprays on the ground, things like that. You have a minimum of 5 days in between counts. Okay, so that's from Project Feeder Watch. I got you. Through Birds Canada. That's right. That's the partners. The bird. It's Cornell Lab of Ornithology, National Audubon, and Birds Canada are the three groups for that are the main people you submit data through exactly for the Great Backyard Bird Count. Yeah, I feel like that too. 13 Juncos today. Yep. If you got, I bet you got snow, Lisa, don't you? I know we don't, but I bet if you do, you're going to get them. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about counting. All right, what you can count and what you can't count, Mary. There are some rules, and you have to have seen the bird, confirmed it, or heard it, and you can confirm the call. And that doesn't mean just that Merlin says it. So hopefully you confirmed if you're hearing Junco sounds or Merlin picks up Juncos, you see Juncos, obviously that's confirmation. But one of the counting rules that is kind of crazy is I use cardinals as a prime example. Okay, when you're counting birds scientifically and you look out there, what they want you to count is the maximum number of the species you see. Now, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think there's 12 cardinals on that tray. Well, that's 12 cardinals. If all of a sudden you go and they're all flushed by Cooper's Hawk or whatever, and you're waiting and they come back, you have 11, but the ratio's off. Oh, look, there's 8 male cardinals instead of there were 7 earlier. So I got another. I know I can count and add another one. They don't want you to do that because what you're doing that way is you're biasing the count for the birds that are not sexually dimorphic. You can't tell a male from a female tufted titmouse. You can't tell a male from a female black-capped chickadee or Carolina chickadee. So if you do skewer your data because you can tell the difference in it, then that's why they want you to count the total birds of that species seen? What's the high count? So during the day, if you start out and you on your tally sheet, you've got northern cardinal, and you start, I have 6 this morning. I counted 6. Well, you look out there again, and then there's 10. You can count 10 on the ground. There's 10. Remember, it's not 5 and 5 or 6 and 6 or 3 and 2. It is the total number of those birds seen, not the males from the females. And so don't resist the temptation to count, because you know that there was one more male than there was earlier, but you didn't top your high number, if that makes sense. That's all part of the citizen science, folks. And it's so tempting to do that, but if you just keep with the highest count of the individual birds you see. So think of anything that something bird count data was that when they're counting, it can be very difficult. That first picture I led with, I mean, look at all of the birds up on that deck railing and all the birds on the ground. So it can be challenging to get your count in. You're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And if you missed 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's not bad. But if you want to estimate, make sure you estimate, I think, to the low side instead of the high side. That's the safer way to do that. But you should, and you got to count. You pick out the juncos in there, and you got to pick out the pine siskins from the goldfinches that you got out there. So, and I thought what we should do is also cover some of the conundrums that the hard ones. The different. I always get asked about Cooper's hawks and Sharp-shinned hawks and separating those. And I have whole videos on this. But I love these two pictures. These are pretty new pictures I've had sent in to me. And I love this view of both those birds side by side. And these are adults. The Cooper's hawk on the left and the Sharp-shinned hawk on the right. And, the classic identifying mark we were taught way back early on was the shape of the tail. Rounded curve for Coopers, straight across for Sharp-shinned. We know that's not a great field mark by itself, because you have feather wear and you have feathers break, and it can look different. But in this picture, that really does show that old illustration of what you're talking about, the curved for Coopers and straight for Sharp-shinned. But look at the head size on these birds. That Sharp-shinned is so much smaller. It has a smaller proportionate head. The Coopers has a larger proportionate head for sure. They are, people would love to be able to use size, because a big female Cooper's is big. I mean, she approaches a red-tailed hawk size and length anyways. And then a male Sharp-shinned hawk is about the size of a blue jay. So those are two pretty easy to tell size-wise, but it's the male of the Coopers and the female of the Sharp-shinned that are pretty close in size, and so you have to use field marks. What are one of your favorite field marks for this identification, Mary?
Also the cap. So Coopers have a cap and Sharp-shinneds have a helmet.
Correct. Yeah, and this picture doesn't illustrate that, but that is, if they were turned sideways, yes, this would be just a dark cap on top.
Coopers are just, yep.
Yeah, and the Sharp-shinned, it goes all the way down the back of its head. Yeah, they're a darker bird. And then, of course, we get into the immature birds, and there are usually a lot more of those than there are adults around, obviously. So, but and Coopers and the immature birds tend to sit out in the open more because they just don't know, the hunting techniques and everything as well yet. But when I look at that again, this is straight on, and again, the head size on this is not as easy to tell. The tail, but those the chest marks on an immature Cooper's hawk, they're thinner and they're teardrop shaped. And there's more white on the chest typically of a Cooper's hawk, where on the Sharp-shinned hawk on the right, they're real blotchy, kind of blurry stripes. And this one's, is molting toward its adult plumage. I think that's why it's so dark. But yes, the blurry dark marks.
Well, and the other thing is, Sharp-shinneds, they carry their width kind of closer to their shoulders and their neck. Coopers tend to be wider, lower breast, upper abdomen type areas. So, Sharpies are kind of like the top of an exclamation point.
Yeah.
And, Coopers are more like parentheses pushed together, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And of course, in flight we know that in flight that the sharp-shins have a crook their wings, and so their head doesn't usually extend past their wingtips, whereas Coopers have flat across wings, so their head looks really big when it sticks out in front of them. So those are, so there's some. It can be tricky. Yes, I agree, James. It can throw me off too, but that's why I love getting pictures of them. I mean, doing it quick, and if you can't tell, then it goes. I think on the checklist, it's either Cooper / Sharp-shin or Accipiter Spud. I don't know what they've got on there, and that's the safer way to do it. If you don't know, you can't tell, just mark that, and that way they know it was an Accipiter hawk, the type of hawk. All right, one of our other conundrums. And whose pictures are these, Mary?
I've never seen those before in my life.
And this brings up a sore point with Mary. This was her favorite finch feeder or mash feeder of all time.
Greatest feeder ever made.
And they don't make it anymore.
They don't make it anymore. I love that feeder so much. So here's what I have to say about these. If you look at a bird and you wonder if it's a hairy, it's probably not. Because when you see a hairy, you know it's a hairy.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking at a bird and you're like, oh, maybe that's a hairy. Is that a hairy? It's not.
Yep, that's exactly.
But when you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, that's a hairy. That's a hairy. So.
Nope. Yep. If you think it's a hairy, then it's a downy. Is my rule. If you think it's a purple finch, then it's a house finch. If you think it's a shrike, then it's a mockingbird. You know what I mean? Because when those birds are just so obvious when they jump out, but you don't see them as often. So it catches you by surprise. But the classic rules for downy versus hairy is the bill size, and the little tiny stubby bill of a downy woodpecker, and the push it through the head rule. If you take that bill and you push it it only goes to about halfway through the depth of the head, whereas the hairy woodpecker has that longer, stouter bill, and it's about the same width as the head is thick. And that's a good one if you can get really good looks like this. And then the tail feathers. Ruth wrote an article for us in the newsletter years ago called "Downies Have Dots." That is the white outer tail feathers down there on the downy. You can see the black underneath there. They have black dots on the tail and those white outer tail feathers, where on a hairy, those white outer tail feathers are stark white. There's no dark on them at all. So that's so depending upon the angle you have, if you're looking at the bird, one or two of those field marks should be, help you to sort them out. Oh. Okay. I'm trying to get back to where I was. I'll take a picture, then count them from that. And if you have that ability, that's a great way to do it. Just like those two pictures with all those birds on the feeders. If you can look at it real quick and count them off there, that would give your high count. That's fine too. You can definitely do that. It's typically more difficult to attract birds to the yard in the city versus. Well, yeah, habitat's everything. And yes, it depends on where. Now, some people live in a great little oasis in a city where it's just an island of trees and habitat. Central Park's the perfect example of this. The island effect, and you get this concentration of birds there. But in typically urban areas, there's just not the habitat that out in the rural areas have to attract birds. Mm-hmm. So, yep. Yeah. So you're exactly right. It's the mass. One of the things that it's done is help us to track this massive decline in bird populations, and it helps. We realize how severe some of these drops have been from this data.
It also helps us with things like ranges that are expanding. I mean, some birds are expanding Mississippi kites. It also helps us, they put out a finch report every year, and they predict the eruption of purple finches, pine siskins. And this also helps kind of determine what areas, if those birds are moving, where they're moving to, what the concentration is, and that can kind of help them determine how good that prediction was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know I always talk about the winter finch forecast back in October usually, and like she's saying, it helps us with that information. You had a peregrine falcon. Awesome. I was wondering why the junk. Yeah, if you get a peregrine comes zipping through, birds are going to leave. That is one serious bird catching bird right there. I tell
That
you.
is the angel of death. Yep.
Yeah. Silent death from above. I've heard feeders up for about a week now. I still not. Well, it's early. I have a video that's very popular that's like how long does it take for birds to find a new feeder, or why aren't birds coming? It's, people come in. I've had people buy a bird feeder at the store and come back 3 days later wanting their money back because no birds are eating from it. They get 3 days, folks. You got to remember, birds have to be cautious. They live their life and they survive by being cautious. And so you put a bird feeder out there, they may come over there and land on it real quick, fly away, because they're gonna test it to make sure that it's not going to eat me. That's dangerous. So they're going to check it out, and it takes them a while. And I can tell you, I used to make this bet all the time, and that is, people buying a new bird feeder, I'd say I guarantee you chickadees will be the first one to come to it. And I'm doing a program on that in the next Monday. I think I've got that scheduled. Why chickadees are so important to bird feeder stations, because other birds follow chickadees around because they're so bold and they're always finding food. And these birds, like bluebirds, follow chickadees around, especially in the winter months, because if chickadees going to find food, the rest of us will. So patience, let those chickadees go in there and discover it first, and make sure you keep it fresh. Don't. I've had people put out bird feeders and let the seed get bad in it, get wet, and don't change it out. That's so important for birds. Whenever they land, they test it, the seed's bad or it's wet, and they may not come to it for a while. Remember, birds work you on a circuit. They're gathering food from all exterior places around. I'd say they only get about 15% of their daily diet from bird feeders. So they're out there eating on natural seed sources, and they may have 3 other feeder stations in your neighborhood they're going around. So you may not get them. They may only hit your yard like from 9 to 10 in the morning regularly, and then it grows. So you have to be patient, and remember, they might be visiting when you're not watching. That's for sure. Hey, Teresa. Yeah, better late than never, we say. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, immature birds. That's that learning. That the longer you do it, the more you get used to it. The dusting so far. Oh, okay. Right now, all over the ground. So many song sparrows. Jordan, that's a mystery. Mary, you got any idea why he doesn't have juncos in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania? I can't imagine that. Especially if you got white-throated sparrows, and I mean,
well, if you have a Cooper's,
yeah, but he's got the other birds. That's what's getting. It's the juncos that are missing.
Is it an open yard with no trees? Maybe I think juncos.
They do prefer. Yeah, underbrush cover. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. If it's too open for them, maybe add a brush pile. That may help. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, you got. Yeah, I had a beautiful female flicker this morning on the feed. She fed for a long time on the peanuts. Haven't seen a flicker in a couple of weeks at least. I mean, she just fed and fed and fed. Yep. Oh God, you gotta love the pileaters, that's for sure. We are technically within range of a hairy, but we're here since so much open country, right? Yeah. Never saw one around my area until about 2 or 3 months ago at Point Pelee. Yeah, hairies tend to require larger timber, and the downies are just the most adaptable little woodpecker. I mean, you can find them feeding on just about any size, but the hairies do, and I find, of course, you're up north, Lisa, they are more common up north than they are going to the south as well. But yeah, habitat can mean it all for the hairies with you. Thank you, Ellie. Yes, the thumbs up. Please let people know you like the videos. That's for sure. All right, a couple more, and then I'm gonna get back to some ID things. We've lost 2 cardinals to a Coopers in the last month, so yeah, give them a scape cover. That's the answer right there. Brush piles. Make sure your feeders, it can the birds can get to escape cover. I mean, the Coopers they miss so much more than they hit. But when they do, it tugs at our heartstring, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's when you go, oh yeah, when you see the size difference. Yeah, hey Kathy, hadn't seen you on tonight. Welcome in. Right next, I got you. All right, listen. Doves are the worst. Yeah, doves are the ones that Coopers catch. They're just so slow taking off, and they're a big reward for them, for sure. Well, as they can be. Hello, Andrew. Welcome in from Cincinnati. Yes, a member of the channel for 17 months. We really appreciate the support. I'm late. I'm not used to doing lives every. Yes, it's a new pattern for me. All right, since Christmas, I haven't seen any birds on my fingers except for that's interesting. And again, Terry, what I usually blame that on or credit it to is natural food. I was talking to Rick in North Carolina the other day about his lack of red bellies this year and really lack of woodpeckers. Oh, I said, "What do you have a strong acorn crop?" And he said, "Oh yes, there's so many acorns and walnuts and the pecan trees did really, really well this year." So that's where when there's a real abundant natural food source, it'll outcompete your bird feeders. And my rule of thumb: if it's good for the birds, it's usually bad for the bird watcher, and vice versa. If there's natural food, they got to take advantage of that. It's the plant lady, Andrew says. It is the plant lady. We're not
one of my many names. Yeah.
Yeah. The one in the yard who. I know, honey. I know. She's talking down here. All right, let's go. Let's see. Who come close and feeling. Yeah. They are bold. Those and the little red-breasted nuthatches. All right, let's get to another conundrum real quick before we run out of time here. House finch versus purple finch. If you think it's a purple finch, then it's a house finch. That's my rule. The purple finch, the male house finches are red where they're red, and they're brown where they're brown, and they have brown streaking down their flanks. Purple finches, male purple finches, look like somebody's taken them by the feet, upside down, and dunked them in raspberry Kool-Aid. Has been my always description of that. They're all over raspberry, purplish washed through the feathers on the back, on the chest, and down. And purple finches usually have that purplish wash way down on the belly, where house finches have white bellies, pretty much for sure. So they, and then of course the shape of the bill, the curved culmen, that is known as, down here, it slants down, but getting a good look at that may be a little more difficult. But look at the wash over the stripe to the eye, and you can see that stripe better on the females. This is a female house finch with that curved culmen there. It shows that. We're at a straight bill on the female, but look at the white stripe to the eye and the white malar stripe. And then you can see over here on the males how that you can see those stripes really well. It's just got that wash over it, and you do not see that on a house finch. So, and there are a lot more house finches now all across the country than there are purple finches. You guys up north get lucky. I've seen 2 purple finches all winter at my feeders, and both of them were brief. But that's one that confuses people a lot. So learn that difference. That's for sure. Red where it's red, all over wash. The purple finches, males, and then the females with that stripe through the eye and the malar stripe being so evident. And I've always called female house finches the plain Janes. I mean, they are just about as plain as they get. Just the stripe through the eye. And here's a feeder with a mixed up in there. The males. And yes, I think the red on the rump throws people off a lot of time. They think it's a purple finch if they see that on the rump, but they both have that. And then we got the winter finches. Probably the number one question I get asked every year is by new bird watchers are, what are those birds out there? They're talking about winter plumage goldfinches, because they don't know that goldfinches molt twice a year, and they're bright yellow in the spring, but in the winter they're this olive drab color, and the black on the wings is much more muted. But they'll molt totally back into their breeding plumage in the spring, and we get to watch that play out. This is a pine siskin down on the bottom there. With this, it looks like a goldfinch, but it's got stripes all over it. And then
You'll
this
see it and
bird
you'll
here.
think, oh,
What's
sorry.
that?
I was just gonna say, you'll see that bird and you'll think that is the most striped bird. When I see
Yeah.
that bird, I always think that is the most striped bird.
Absolutely. And then this is a much rarer finch for our area. This is a white-winged crossbill. And yes, they have big bills and they're cross, but they take their tongue and dart it in there to get that Niger out of there. They're a bird that really does like Niger. I don't feed a lot of Niger, but they'll eat sunflowers and sunflower chips, but they are one that really does like that Niger. So, all right. Well, try it. We're right at an hour already. So, man, time flies. So just try to get through the last few ones here. I'm late. And yeah, I got that. Sorry. All right. All right. Oh, okay. I was further along than I thought. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting without my producer here tonight. I miss people. I'm sorry if I missed your question or comment. Yeah, do that. Send it, Mark at backyardbirdcenter.com. Jordan, send me an email. Let me look at it. Take a couple pictures of the yard, and I'll try to make some suggestions. Thank you, Stephen R. Bird. Yep, we'll be back on next week. And next week, I plan to have Ruth Simmons on with me, and we're going to do another edition of bird adventures that we've experienced. Mary's going to be on one of these programs.
I will not be on
Yeah.
that one.
Ruth and I, we birded for over 30 years together, and so she's going to join me live next Thursday night, and we're going to go over some of our crazy bird adventures and exciting ones too. Yep. Incidental findings. We have a rare bird for the area, a ring-necked parakeet. Yep, that's an escape bet. That has been here in our yard since Halloween. Do you put it on there incidental, or do you record it at all?
I don't get too excited about ring-necked pheasants. You're perfectly welcome to put that in there as incidental, but it's not. I mean, they're an introduced species.
Yeah, and people raise them in captivity. And that's what's really, especially depending on where you are, it's hard to know if it's just a pen raised bird that's just gotten out and it's roaming the neighborhoods or they're roaming out in the country, or if it is actually a wild bird. There's several species like that.
And there's nothing. I mean, mute swans are the same thing. You could put one in as an incidental.
Yeah.
If it showed up again, it's an introduced species. But it's not. It's not going to send hordes of people out looking for it. So
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Red-breasted nuthatch about 2 feet. Refilling the feeders, but a care in the world. They are such cute birds, and they are bold. They rival chickadee, that's for sure. They're even bolder than them.
Yeah.
Oak trees produce a lot. There you go. You got natural food. That's why your feeders are slower. I guarantee that. The native plant. Mary, you willing to do another native plant program?
Oh my gosh. Sure. Just don't ask me to do the adventures.
Don't
tell those stories in public.
I can tell some stories from Mary adventures, sinking in the mud and a few things like that.
Yes. I am in quicksand, going down rapidly, and Mark says, "What happened to Mary?" as he raises his binoculars to look at a snail kite. I could have been over my head by the time he bailed me out.
That's not embellished at all, folks.
Not at all.
That story gets better every day. All right.
It's pretty close to the truth.
I knew Bob was going to rescue you. He was the hero of our trip. He would always
a decrepit stick that when you grabbed it, it crumbled.
Purple and House Finches last year. I had more purple. Most of in some years, like I said, those red years when the purple finches invade, it's a beautiful thing. The stripe to me.
Yeah.
Yes, the white stripe through the eye on the females, and then another white stripe through the mallard. That's the female purple finches. Yeah, house finches don't have that.
And we had a ton of purple finches on the Christmas bird count up at Smithville Lake, so they're really around this year, more than we've had in a long time. I haven't had them in my feeders, but they're around the Kansas City area this winter.
Finding those hot spots, just like he's talking about in Utah. That's so important. You get to learn. You're welcome, Denise. Thanks for joining in. I'm sorry we're going a bit long here, but you guys, we'll see you next week. I appreciate you joining in, and thanks for the support. Thank you, Brian. Absolutely. Can't wait for I've already done the spring bird height list for the spring, and we're going to do a shorebird trip up to Los Bluffs the first Sunday in May. I might have to twist Mary's arm to see if I can't get her to come on that, and we will try to teach people shorebirds. So thanks so much, everybody. You're great as always, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
All right. Till next time, let's talk birds. Got to end with that. Sorry.